so it's very important to us that things be well constructed, and we just don't see it very often.
I think the first thing that it's kind of impossible to ignore was the use of language. And I've never opened a script and seen a page and a half of one character speaking with such clarity of how it was going to be shot. And so there was such a clear vision of how we were able to read it, and then there was a clear idea of a rhythm to the script, and that the way that these women spoke to each other, it is very, I believe, grounded in a very true reality, and there's also this other way they speak with each other within the film. I feel like it takes you on a journey with them because the language is so specific, and so that was something I loved. And I think a moment that always stood out for me was because I was looking specifically at as many details that made me enamored by my character, as one does when they read something, and knowing that they're supposed to be reading, specifically imagining one you as one person. It was Christina trying to find space in this chair, and of course we didn't have. It's the scene with the weird wall, and she's just sitting, and it's funny, and it's at a strange place within the story. It's this moment where we all kind of need to laugh, but we're not quite sure why and what's happening. And because we didn't have the space, and we were, in my head, she was like in a closet sitting in a chair. And so when we got to the set and we were trying to figure out what that place was, it was absolutely like one of those moments of, oh, now this makes more sense than what I had in my head, because who would be hiding in a chair in a closet? Who has a chair in a closet? Like, I don't know why that is what I imagined, but it always was a funny moment to me that stood out and was incredibly specific to everyone's survival mechanisms of trying to create spaces for themselves within this confined space.
It's really interesting you bring that up because...
Oh, you know what it was? It was the fact that we were all stuck in that apartment in between setups with a crew of 12 moving equipment from room to room. And so basically we were sitting on each other's laps playing spelling bee, and so that helps with intimacy.
Most behind the scene photos that were taken, Natasha, Carrie, and our limbs are completely entwined. You can't tell whose leg is whose.
So before I hand it out to the audience...
Similarity is that Azazel shot in order. When you do a play, you generally do it in order. And so when you have a climax, you've had a whole bunch of story leading up to it, and then you do your big speech and you cry, and then there's sort of the coming down from that moment and the resolution. And we never ever do that anymore in TV and film because of budget. So it's always location dependent. So when I'm shooting Gilded Age season 3, sometimes I'm shooting scenes from 3 different episodes in one day, and I have absolutely no idea what's going on or what I'm doing. I'm like, are we fighting right now? Is this the part where we're fighting? I mean, I just don't know what's happening. And so the pleasure of shooting in order is that you get to make discoveries about where everybody ends up. And so when we found ourselves in the final tableau, you've spoken beautifully about this, we didn't know what that moment was going to be after we met Vincent and we were in that moment. And so I remember being so startled that Christina was in the middle. I'm the big sister, I'm in charge, but she was the one actually who was holding us together. And I was able to be vulnerable to her, and she was holding Natasha. And like, that was you put us in those positions, I know that. I mean, you did, but not that.
Indicated how you hoped we would respond or feel by the end. There's no indication of emotions on the page, or I think you gave us his notes, and I think we could have only have made those decisions having the experience of the film all the way up to that point. And if we were to have shot the ending on day 7 of 20, I think we would have made decisions and like, oh shoot, which happens all the time. And sometimes it's informative and it becomes a pillar that you get to, and you try and trick yourself into ways of it being helpful. But it's not largely helpful. And I think I love getting to use language, and I feel like because I haven't done a play in so long, to use language, that much language in one day, is something I mean, there have been some characters where I've been able to, shoot like 13 pages of dialogue in a day, and it's dialogue heavy, and that is a thrilling day at work. But every day felt that way here. And so I can't actually say, because it's been so long since I've been on stage, sadly, but the language was the thing I was most excited to use.
Does anyone else have a question? Oh, we have someone.
Love the film, your character's relatable. I don't know if that's a good thing or not, but so you've previously played characters that have dealt with grief, but it's more like post-grief after they died, whereas this film, it's like most of the film anyway, it's before they died. So how did you navigate that? Like, how did you navigate that with Christina, and like what sort of emotions must she have been feeling?
It's funny because you don't even realize the trends that you're following in your own choices. But Aza truly could have come to me with an independent, $1 million budget film telling me that Carrie, Natasha, and I were preparing to be astronauts going to Mars in a room, and I probably would have done it. So it wasn't necessarily that I had to explore different stages of the grieving process, but I also don't think I've ever been able to explore this kind of exploration of the time and space that Oz is speaking to. This way where you wake up one day and you have no idea if you've been sitting for 11 days with a body that's ready to pass or not. And I think the thing that was interesting for me was exploring the fact that even though this woman comes across as overly potentially emotional and unable to process what's going on at the beginning, because it's also overwhelming, she actually has these skills, as performative as they may seem, with yoga and breathing and meditation, that she's really gripping onto to be able to process the time she's spending inside the room with her father, and all that's really off camera. But I do believe that that's what leads her to a different place than her siblings, who are kind of suppressing and trying to avoid. But I would have done it. I think anything else would have presented to me as a friend, and it's our third time collaborating together, and so I hope to do it.
I want to see the astronaut.
I'm pretty excited about it too.
Yeah. Yeah. Just one room. It's a white room. It's padded.
It writes itself.
Does anyone else have a question? Oh yes, we have a lady just down at the front here. Sorry, I'm really making you work for it. I should have gone for a middle question.
During the time in London so far. My question is, I'm so fascinated by the process from script to screen, because usually when you read a script, the lines that you read may not translate how you think they will, compared to when you see it on screen. So I guess this is a question directed to all of you. I'm just really interested to hear if any particular scene may be, when you watch it back compared to how you read it, it felt different, or it translated different to how you thought it originally would have, and if you think you made the conscious decision to maybe change the script slightly because you think it would look better on screen or translate better, like in relation to the sisters' very complicated relationship on screen. I find it so fascinating, really interesting to see.
We never changed anything. I think the only thing that might have been adjusted was a math age thing. Like, would I have been 7 or 12 or something like that? But other than that, every single interruption was on the page. We followed the punctuation. The moment we started their rhythm would change, and we had to start overlapping at places. We were drilling it because we wanted to be as as true to what Aza had written, because it seemed like it was following such a pace and it was like it was musical to us, and I think to you. And so to that, I know we didn't change. Do you guys have anything to speak to? What
Well,
surprised you?
I would say it's a great question. I think that I wrote. At some point, I was picturing the three of them.
Okay.
And the other Q&A
One
was
more.
staying.
I'm such a middle child. Everybody has to be treated the same. It's so uncomfortable. People are treated the same. Do you see him? Go ahead, raise your hand again. Yeah, he raised his hand every time, and we never saw him, but I saw him. I better be good.
That was so sweet, to be honest. Now I feel bad because my question was for
Was not great. You can just tell us how great we are.
First of all, the movie was incredible. It made me laugh, cry, brought back some good, bad memories, which is fine. But the movie was great. Carrie, Elizabeth, the director, you guys did an amazing job. My question to Elizabeth is, in your role in His Three Daughters, what differs you from your other roles?
Well, gosh, I don't feel like I've played anyone as gentle and good-hearted and kind. I think I gravitate towards characters that are hard to get behind or like, because I find it interesting to have to understand people that I don't necessarily, I think other people might have a challenge with, because I find that an interesting exercise for myself. And so it was when Aza wrote this thing, I wrote this, thinking of you. And I thought, well, then I must be nicer around Aza or something, or less definitive or aggressive or something. And so that was the thing that I found most interesting in exploring, that felt different. And I don't know how different that is for other people who have seen other projects of mine or not, or if it, you hope they all feel different and that you're the only common denominator.
Okay, now that actually is all we have time for.
Thank you.